You know, sometimes the real truth doesn't show up in reports, it settles quietly at the bottom of a coffee cup, hidden where no one bothers to look. That morning, the rain wasn't heavy, just enough to fog up the windshield like the whole town was trying to hide something behind a veil of mist. A silver-gray pickup rolled into the parking lot behind Sunrise Diner number 28, its amber lights glowing warmly through the drizzle. But to me, that light felt more like a warning. My name's Derek Langston, or at least that's who I was pretending to be that day, 52 years old, CEO of Sunrise Restaurant Group, but wearing a battered flannel jacket and an old badge that read Walt Simmons. Yeah, I was undercover. Not for a fancy sting, but to see the truth nobody wanted to admit was right under my nose. I sat in my truck a little longer than usual, gripping a box of toast I'd picked up nearby. I wasn't hungry. No, I was here to watch, to listen, to see if the place I built was really working or if it was just a show for the cameras. Inside, the staff moved around like clockwork, but there was no life in their eyes, no spark. It was like they'd memorized a script from some dusty operations manual, not people who wanted to serve or be there. The HR reports said the numbers looked good, steady revenue, even beating quarterly goals. But the employee turnover? 38%. Engagement? Dead last. That's when I knew the problem wasn't on paper, it was in their souls. I always say, if you want to know how healthy a restaurant is, don't ask the manager. Watch how the staff pours coffee at 7 a.m. So that morning I walked in, cap low, trying to look like any old trucker who needed a dry corner to warm up. No one recognized me. No one asked my name. The door chimed softly behind me, starting a quiet journey to find the real heartbeat of this place. Then she showed up, Cassie. Hair tied back in a messy ponytail, sleeves worn thin, carrying a tray with a steaming cup of coffee and a slice of toast. She didn't stand out, but she was the only one actually working. I mean, really working. She placed the plate down so gently, it was like she was scared to scratch the table. Black coffee and toast with butter and jam on the side, she said, polite but tired. I smiled, tried to break the silence. Busy morning, huh? Tips must be decent. Her smile froze for a split second, just long enough for me to notice. Then her voice dropped below the espresso machine's hum. Morning shifts are the worst for tips, especially when we have to split them. But honestly, only a few actually get anything. That was the crack in the wall. I'd been waiting for the part they never wrote in the reports. It wasn't just about low tips. It was that only some people got their share, while the rest like Cassie were left out. And no one seemed to care. I watched as she darted between tables, covering 12 by herself. Meanwhile, Ryan and Jason, two well-dressed guys with gelled hair, stood idly by the POS machine, barely moving but handling payments like pros. Every digital tip seemed to go through them. One person ran triple the tables, but had no access to the system that decided who got paid. Sound backwards? Yeah, that happened. When I asked Cassie why she didn't swipe payments herself, she lowered her voice. I don't have access. The POS system only lets managers assign roles. I'm on the supplemental staff list, hats, really just the invisible list. She glanced toward Doug, the branch manager, laughing with a regular, smooth and polished like someone who knows how to keep things tidy in front of the higher-ups. Doug's nephew Ryan always got morning shifts and full access. A system built for fairness had turned into a playground for insiders. Cassie pulled out a worn notebook, edges curling, filled with handwritten notes of tables served, tips recorded, and what she actually received. Over the past month, she'd lost over $600 in tips. Not a complaint, just facts. Silent evidence of a broken system. I snapped a few photos of that notebook, slipped a note inside saying, "Keep documenting, but don't show anyone. Wait for me." The coffee was cold, but my mind was boiling. Because a company can survive a dip in sales, but it dies the moment its best people stop trusting the system. Later, I caught Ryan tweaking settings on the PO's access levels I never authorized. When a new employee asked for help, Cassie warned her quietly, "Don't let Ryan help. He won't do it for you." That's when it hit me. Cassie wasn't just a waitress. She was holding on to the last sliver of justice in a place that had lost its way. Then came the twist. Jason suddenly couldn't log into the system. Ryan played it off like a glitch, but in my mind, that was the first real red flag. Someone was cutting off access to keep the secrets hidden. That afternoon, the rain stopped outside, but inside, a storm had officially begun. I called Mara, head of internal investigations, a woman who had busted 3 major embezzlement cases in 4 years, and told her what I found. No questions asked, she got to work immediately. Within an hour, the tech team had put the POS system on surveillance. The next 3 days revealed what I feared: a hidden access tier granted only to Doug, Ryan, and a ghost account Doug created but never assigned. Over the past month, more than $4,800 in digital tips passed through that branch. 67% ended up in Ryan's account, despite him being only a part-time server on paper. And worse, an entity named Douglas Henderson LLC was getting weekly internal service fees that matched the missing cash tips perfectly. Friday morning at 9:02 a.m., the diner was packed. Cassie was still hustling with a trainee shadowing her. Ryan stood confidently behind the register, moving with the ease of someone who knew the game was rigged. Doug was chatting away, calm and polished. At 9:06, I walked in, no disguise, just Derek Langston in a charcoal suit, CEO of Sunrise Restaurant Group. Mara was right behind me, tablet in hand, showing real-time POS analytics. Doug froze. Ryan turned pale. The diner fell silent like someone flipped a switch. "Good morning," I said, voice steady but sharp. "I won't take much of your time. I've spent 15 years building this system. I once said fairness isn't a slogan, it's a behavior repeated every day. But here, someone rewrote the rules to turn sharing into privilege. And I did not build Sunrise to be a place like that." Mara tapped her screen, graphs popping up, employee names, tip percentages, transfers to Douglas Henderson LLC, legal docs linking Doug to the entity. I looked Ryan in the eye. 67% of tips didn't go to good service, they went to you because the system was bent in your favor. No uplift, no cheating, just silence, the kind that follows when the truth is called out in broad daylight. I told Doug and Ryan they were suspended immediately. Records would be handed to legal. There's no room here for people who turn a tip-sharing system into personal gain. Then I turned to the staff. If you've truly done the work, you will be seen, acknowledged, and fairly rewarded. But if you've been hiding fairness behind a perfect smile, you'll have to leave. I could see it in their eyes. Some avoided my gaze, some looked down, but others, for the first time, held my stare. From that day on, Sunrise Diner stopped being a place where tips disappeared into shadows. We rebuilt the system: transparent, fair, real-time. Every employee's work was recorded, every tip shared openly. Access was no longer about who you knew, but what you did. Cassie? She went from juggling 12 tables alone to becoming a regional training manager, spreading the fair tip-sharing system to every branch still stuck in the dark ages. She didn't preach, she told her story, and the truth spoke for itself. One quiet morning, I came back to the diner, sitting where it all started. Cassie was busy training new hires, their faces no longer clouded by fear of invisibility. On the table, under a half-eaten pancake, I left a folded $20 bill and a note. "Thank you for not giving up when no one stood beside you. Today, you are no longer alone." Cassie found it, smiled quietly, and tucked it in her notebook now, full not of complaints, but of proof that change was real. A month later, the smell of fresh toast filled the morning air. The digital tip board displayed real names, clear shares, and real-time fairness. Employee turnover dropped, but more importantly, people felt seen. That feeling of being noticed, it can't be measured in KPIs, but it's the heartbeat of a healthy workplace. So what do you think? Is fairness just a slogan or a daily choice? Who really deserves to be rewarded, the ones who serve, or the ones who rig the system? I want to hear your take. Drop your thoughts below, because sometimes justice isn't given, it's fought for, one honest tip at a time.